Picking up where we left off, let's just make sure you understand where we were. There's the old amusement park off of New Jersey. Now take a look at an area that was left natural. This is kind of interesting. The parking lot got covered, but you had protective dunes here that hadn't been destroyed. The protective dunes really do form a function to protect the barrier beach. When we build houses here, we build them on top of the dunes. We walk over the grasses that hold the dunes. This is a really important lesson. Nature knows best. We probably shouldn't mess with it. Here are places with groins in place. Notice the beach still got worn away. Off of the southern coast of the United States along the Gulf, we have an entire series of barrier islands. In order to get oil into these places, we have drilled through the barrier islands, we have built on them, and we are destroying the barrier islands. What does that do to the places back here? It puts them in danger. But people out here want to build their houses back, so they get insurance. We have to raise our insurance rates to cover that. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Here's Miami Beach. This is just crazy. This is an island that normally shifts back and forth. The beaches are going away, but it doesn't stop people from building there. As the oceans rise, these places are going to be in trouble. Here's another example. Barrier Island, another little barrier island, and then the main part of the coast. Here's what happens to barrier islands over time. In this case, it's breached, and then it goes away, but at least the backwaters have been protected for a while. Drowned coasts. Here's what's happening to the sea level. In the last 24,000 years, it's been rising, and this is starting to pick up again. What does that cause? Well, remember those straight shorelines we have? No longer straight. When water rises into river valleys, we end up with these drowned shorelines. You end up with this kind of thing. And remember fjords from the glacier chapter? When oceans rise, the glaciers melt away, we end up with these. Here's the eastern coast of Greenland, and these are areas, where there used to be river valleys. Those river valleys now are drowned. Coral reefs, important things. I know what this is. This is my old house in Samoa. When I lived there, there were these houses and nothing else. Here's my house. This is all lava rock. It doesn't look like it. So it was very protected. Again, here's the island of Moorea in Tahiti. And here is a coral reef wrapping around the island. We'll really get to this more in the chapter on oceans, but I just wanted to touch on this now. Here's Midway Island. Here's the old airstrip, and here's the coral reef protecting it. Here's a better version of what's going on with sea level in the last few years. Since 1880 to 2000, sea level has risen a little over 20 centimeters. What is that? About 8 inches. Not a big deal, unless, of course, you live along the ocean and you planned for the sea level to be right where it is. Scientists have been wrong about the rate of sea level rise. They were too conservative. It seems to be rising faster than they predicted. Last 15 years, about 130 meters of rise, or 1.3 meters per century. In the last 3,000 years, only about 4 centimeters per century. It was slowing down, but more recently, it has started speeding up again, from 0.04 to 0.24 meters per century. If we are good at melting the glacier ice, you can see a 60-meter rise in ocean levels. Some of you may know what this is. Take a look at this stuff. You figured it out yet? Amigos, down here is another country. This is Florida. This is Cuba, 15,000 years ago. This was the shoreline of the United States. This is what's going to be happening if we continue to melt the ice. Take a look what happens to Florida. Miami is down here somewhere. Oh, well, it was down there. With an 8-meter rise, much less than what can happen, this is what's going to be the new United States. Again, here are barrier islands. Somebody built a house on there? Not a good idea, because a rising sea will sink the island, or the island will move inside. Also, people that like to build on cliffs, Well, at least your property's moving, I guess. You end up with slump. Now, even when the barrier island goes away, it doesn't go away. The sand is out there. In fact, in Sandy Hooks, not Sandy Hook, wrong place, Superstorm Sandy, they were pumping beach sand back up to restore the beaches. Whether or not that's good, time will tell. This is interesting. 1930, levees built caused land to subside. Oil and natural gas were removed from underneath the land, causing more subsidence. Faults then were stimulated by this, causing even more subsidence, and wetlands off the coast of New Orleans were removed. How big? The size of Delaware. New Orleans is sinking at about half a centimeter a century. Not much until you realize they're underwater already. With the local conditions, that's 74 centimeters per century. That's crazy. It's already somewhere between 1.5 and 3 meters below mean sea level. The Mississippi in this area is about 3.5 meters above sea level. What can we do? I don't think there's an easy answer. In the case of Hurricane Katrina, a really big storm but smaller than Sandy, that's what happened. By the way, this is what may happen if we melt all the ice. Could happen. Looks like it's going to happen. But we're being told by certain groups, it's not happening. You can ignore that. Just like the oil in the water. That's not happening. Here is a crazy little place, Grand Isle, Louisiana. Would not want to be here in a hurricane. And that's just a pretty picture. Here's a wave-cut platform terrace. This is a place where the land has been raised up. This was a terrace that was underneath the water, leveled out. As the land is raised up faster than it's worn away, you end up with this really cool terrace. We don't find too many of these around anymore. And that's it. Wave goodbye.